This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from Editor and Publisher magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcast, digital, and all forms of news publishing.
And greetings once again. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. As always, we kick off by urging those that are listening on a podcast platform to click that follow button and then scream from the rafters that your friends should follow us as well. Those watching on our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Either way, if you do that, you should get updates each and every time we upload. This weekly vodcast series we dedicate to news publishing we call E&P Reports. Censorship in America is not just a theoretical threat anymore. It's happening real time. Just days ago, a Mississippi judge ordered the Clarksdale, Mississippi Press Register to remove an editorial from its website. The piece kind of questioned the syntax, but not the tax itself, but the lack of transparency, how this was going down so quick. Now, this unprecedented ruling raises serious First Amendment concerns. So joining me today to unpack all this is Wyatt Emmerich, publisher and owner of the Clarksdale, Mississippi Press Register. You are not a stranger to this program, Wyatt. I just had you on a few months ago concerning your class action suit against Google. Welcome back. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you. There certainly seems to be a lot to talk about these days.
Wow.
In the local news world.
And after Wyatt helps us unpack what happened down in Mississippi, we're gonna chat with Seth Stern, the director of advocacy at the Freedom of the Press Foundation, who's been very vocal about this. And Seth, our hope is you'll be able to unpack the broader implications of this ruling and what the heck we can do as an industry. Welcome aboard, Seth.
Great to be here.
All right, so Wyatt, before we take our break for a commercial, I read the editorial. By the way, I don't think it's that scathing.
Floyd Ingram is the publisher of the Clarksdale Press Register, and he wrote the editorial.
Floyd wrote it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
And he's a great publisher, salt of the earth, does his job, puts out a good local paper. So he's gone head to heads with this mayor over the years. It really started about 2 or 3 years ago when the mayor and the commissioners raised their salaries hugely and tried to keep it quiet, and Floyd exposed it, and ever since then
there's been a war.
It's been difficult.
And weren't you offered in 2023? There's a story that you were offered $30,000 to fire Floyd. Is that right, sir?
Yes, the mayor personally offered me $30,000 to fire him.
By the way, I saw the piece. It was taken down, and it's clearly labeled as opinion. It's an editorial.
Oh, yes. It's an editorial on the editorial page. There's no doubt about that. But it's not libelous. It's true. They admitted that they failed to notify the newspaper of the meeting, as is customary and according to law. I talked to the city attorney, and I said, this is going to blow up in your face. You don't need to do this. And I was really trying to help him, and they did it anyway. And
on the 14th, let's unpack that. On the 14th of February, an actual complaint from the city attorney was sent to a judge complaining about the editorial, but the judge ruled in favor, right? And made you take down this editorial. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, and we weren't even at the hearing or never even spoke to the judge in any way. And she ruled that there was malice. Which is, a highly difficult thing to prove. So there's so many interesting aspects about this. First, the fact that it was done as a restraining order, the fact that it was opinion and clearly labeled as opinion.
Labeled, right. The
fact that we never were even noticed of the hearing or had a chance to put our side up. And then and then the fact that they did it in Hinds County, which is 2.5 hours drive from Clarksdale, that felt like judge shopping to me. And the fact that they completely, it's the city of Clarksdale is the plaintiff. It's not even the mayor personally.
No, it's
there's a huge federal legal precedent that a governmental entity cannot sue for libel. I mean, it's just every bizarre component or outrageous component. There are like five of them all wrapped into one, and there was just an immediate national backlash in the First Amendment, community and world, which I'm very pleased to say is strong and active, and I'm very impressed and feel happy to see such strong support out there.
One of which is Seth Stern. We're going to unpack this with Seth and really dive into this right after this message. Stick around, please.
This episode of E&P Reports is exclusively sponsored by Blocks Digital, formerly Town News. Even though the name has changed, their commitment to the media industry is as strong as ever. Blocks Digital is now even better positioned to deliver integrated solutions like content management, audience development, advertising revenue, video management, and more. Join the over 2,000 news publishers worldwide that power their ongoing digital transformation with Blocks Digital, serving over 141 million monthly users who view over 6.5 billion pages of content each year. You can trust Blocks Digital to empower you, to connect you at scale with the community you need to reach. Blocks Digital, formerly Town News, now reimagined to help meet the news publishing challenges of tomorrow and beyond. Learn more at blocksdigital.com.
All right, Wyatt, hang in there just for a second. Okay, Seth, treat me like I'm a 3-year-old. Has this ever happened before? Is this like normal in your opinion, sir? Your organization is an advocacy organization that keeps a watchful eye on First Amendment rights. Am I correct, sir? So
You are correct.
And you are their chief advocacy person, correct? So this is right in your wheelhouse. Is this the first time for this?
I can't recall seeing another instance where a city obtained an order to take down an editorial based on allegations that it was defamatory. We have seen plenty of frivolous legal actions against the media. We have seen plenty of prior restraints. We saw the raid in Marion, Kansas a couple of years ago. We've seen reporters and publishers prosecuted for what they report, for example, in Atmore, Alabama, a year or two ago. But this is a pretty unique fact pattern. Even in cases dealing with legitimate defamation complaints, it's extremely well established in the United States that the remedy is monetary damages to compensate plaintiffs for harm they suffered. You don't get to censor the news by alleging it's defamatory. And this is far from a legitimate defamatory complaint for all the reasons we just heard. The city is the plaintiff. It is not only labeled opinion on the opinion page, but anyone who reads the article can see it's plainly an opinion article. Questions are raised, conclusions are not drawn, and actual malice. If a city could sue, it would certainly be a public figure. It needs to prove either falsity or reckless disregard of the truth. Failure to do adequate research, which from what I've read is what the city attorney is alleging, that is nowhere near clearing the bar necessary to prove actual malice. But that's an inquiry that's about monetary damages. The idea that you can get a lawsuit taken down, a complaint taken down by alleging it's defamatory, that is unprecedented and couldn't be more wrong. And a judge who did 5 minutes of research should know that. A judge who did a single Google search or ask ChatGPT, whatever it may be, that's, talk about not doing your research. That is just inexcusable. It should take minutes to figure out that it is inappropriate to order a newspaper to take down an editorial.
Wyatt, you're in the national spotlight, obviously. You have advocacy groups reaching out to you. You have other publishers behind you. Your state association has put out a notice that they are abhorrent. They find this thing, there's a lot of chat going on. But let me zero in on the community. I know you're talking to Floyd. This is one of the communities you serve. What is the local reaction to this, as far as you know, going on in this town? What's going on?
Well, we've had great support and feedback. It's very heartening. And the mayor has his folks, and but we feel like we have good support in the community. and people appreciate what we do. And this tax was to go to support the police,
Right.
and people, the paper was for that. Everybody's for that. This special meeting was to broaden it to economic development, which could be anything. So that was the problem. Is we felt like the commissioners and the mayor were kind of pulling a fast one on us. They said it was for the police, but now it's for any economic development, which could be anything. And that was really the crux of what we were trying to editorialize about. And I think the community appreciates that.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, Seth, the Freedom of the Press Foundation clearly, and I don't even have to ask this question, clearly says this action from this judge is a violation of the First Amendment. Do I have to ask you that, or is that, I mean, you guys agree on that, correct?
Yes, yes. Thanks for the softball. I agree with that.
Okay, now, what precedent does this set? I mean, there's something that we report on constantly here at E&P, that when one state caves on a certain issues, others will follow. When one judge says something, others may follow. There's a lot of pressure going on now to dampen down the press from a lot of angles, legally, and I could go on through the courts and through lawsuits and what have you. If you were a small publisher right now, would you be scared? Should you be scared to put up with the next editorial? Because you just don't need this hassle. Am I right or wrong? Give me the views that are coming from Freedom of the Press Foundation.
Well, I hope that the precedent this will set is that if you bring a frivolous complaint like this, or if you're a judge and you rubber stamp a frivolous motion like this one, you are going to be the subject of national, local, even global backlash, that it is going to backfire. It's going to create what's often called the Streisand effect, named after an instance where a legal action that the singer pursued called far more attention to the matter she was upset about than would have been called otherwise. Um, Nobody was thinking about this editorial outside of the community. Now it's national news. Whatever issues were local are now have a spotlight on them. I'm hoping that's the precedent it'll set. I would have hoped that that was the precedent that the Marion County Record case set, that when local authorities who have a grudge against a newspaper publisher try some kind of unconstitutional stunt, it tends to backfire. You can see that in Marion, you can see that in Atmore, Alabama, plenty of other places in Los Angeles where they pursued a journalist named Ben Camacho for publishing public records that the city itself provided him pursuant to a request he had filed under the Freedom of Information law there. I hope that's the precedent it'll set. On the other hand, you're correct. It can also cause suffering local newspapers that are scraping to get by to say, I'm going to pull some punches because even if this lawsuit, even if this complaint and this TRO is quickly resolved, it's still a hassle, a headache, potentially legal expenses are involved. It's a distraction for the newsroom. It puts editors and reporters in an awkward situation if they have to continue covering the same officials that they had this very public spat with. So yes, you could see potentially other papers looking at this and saying, I'm going to self-censor. I'm going to be overly cautious about how I proceed from here on out.
Wyatt, final question. And I, this is not a huge team, right, in this town. This is a small community, and I'm assuming you're operating a small operation there.
Right. 4 employees, I think, maybe 5.
And some stringers, I hope, or others that contribute.
Oh, yeah.
But are they scared? Are they thinking a little nervous down there? I mean, are you giving
Well,
them?
I think our
What are you-
publisher has been scared,
Yeah.
because I mean, Clarksdale is a scary place. There are very entrenched gangs. The murder rate is atrocious.
Really?
It's a scary place, and I think he has been intimidated and afraid, and has often said, can you get me somewhere else?
Oh, no.
But he's really a dedicated newspaper man. He's in his 60s, and he's been doing this all his life, and I admire him. And I try to exhort him to not let him run him. Don't be run out of town. Don't give him the satisfaction. And so, I'm kind of glad that he refused to back down and made me stand firm, and I commend him. And now I think all the support has heartened him and made him feel like, hey, he's not all alone out there battling the powers that be, that he's got a whole nation of supporters who understand the importance of the First Amendment and are ready and willing to help him. So that's been the great, wonderful thing that's come out of this is the immediate, visceral national support for us.
But let's stay local for a second. There's a second part to that question. What about the advertising community? Has the mayor put any pressure on some of the bigger advertisers? Have you lost any business?
Oh yeah, it's a struggle. The mayor and some of his supporters started a competing newspaper.
Really?
First they tried to put us out of business with a boycott. That didn't work. And then, but I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, it's a free market and they can do what they want to do. But I feel like we have strong support in the community, and almost miraculously the paper, is profitable. I mean, it's peanuts compared to most businesses, but we're making a little bit of money.
All right. So this is not the end of the story. This is the beginning, and I promise our listeners and viewers that E&P is going to continuously report on every aspect of this, so all can learn, and we'll see where it goes. Wyatt Emmerich, publisher and owner of the Clarksdale, Mississippi Press Register, of course, and also the owner of Emmerich Newspapers. Seth Stern, Director of Advocacy at the Freedom of the Press Foundation. I want to thank both of you for the fight, for keeping us up to date, and for the beginning of what we'll be reporting on for months and months to come. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Mike. And thanks, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.